A woman named Milena teaches high school in Belgrade. Her husband Branko works at a factory. They have a savings account in Branko to 11,000 Deutsch marks deposited over 12 years. State guaranteed. Official interest rate. A passbook that updates correctly every quarter. They also have an envelope behind the bookshelf. 15,000 Deutsch marks in physical cash. Milena's mother put it there. She had lived through a different collapse in the 1950s and passed down one rule. Keep hard currency in the house, not in the bank. This is the story of what that difference meant. The setup minus 1992 Yugoslavia is breaking apart. The federal government has already raided the national bank. The Serbian parliament authorized it quietly. Most citizens don't know yet. A pyramid scheme called Yugoslavia is advertising on television. The woman who runs it gives out gifts to depositors on live television. She is called the mother of Serbia. Goran, a neighbor, takes his savings and deposits them. Branko says nothing. July 1993 monthly inflation hits something close to 400%. Prices double in less than a week. The National Bank issues new banknote denominations faster than the printers can finish drying. 24 new denominations in a single year. The highest note in circulation cannot buy a single loaf of bread. Shops begin denominating prices in bads, points, each point equal to 1 Deutsch mark. The stallholder at Klinik market shows prices on a handwritten card and converts to dinars at a rate that changes several times a day. Rama currency dealers work the market openly. Rama dealers, housewives, pensioners, bank managers. Everyone knows the exchange rate. It updates like a pulse. August government freezes prices. Bakers stop making bread. Belgrade goes a week without bread from the state bakeries. Slaughterhouses refuse to sell meat to state stores at the controlled price. Milena walks past a shop and through the window sees shelves stocked with candy canes. Only candy canes. She starts baking bread every day. By the end of the crisis, she will not want to eat bread again for years. October another redenomination. 1 million old dinars equals 1 new dinar. 6 zeros removed. The new notes look cleaner. Inflation does not notice. Goran stops talking about Yugoslavia. He doesn't need to say anything. The lines outside the offices run around a full city block. 80,000 depositors trying to get their money back. Radoa, a pensioner of 60, had deposited 23,000 Deutsch marks. Her life savings. Yugoslavia sends her to a queue. The queue sends her to another queue. At some point, the money is simply gone. The computer disks with depositor records vanish during the investigation. Nobody is charged. November, the government postpones turning on the central heating in Belgrade's apartment blocks. Not delays, postpones. The district heating system, the one that pipes heat through the walls of every concrete block in the city, stays cold. Branko comes home from the factory and his breath is visible in the kitchen. They buy an electric space heater. Every apartment in the building buys one. The grid overloads. Rolling blackouts begin. 3 hours off, 3 hours on. Milena grades papers by candlelight. She has started stockpiling candles the way other people stockpile bread. Monthly inflation. Close to 20,000%. December 180,00%. The 500 billion dinar note is issued. It cannot buy a single Deutsch mark. A note issued on December 15th is worth 12 Deutsch marks when it prints. 7 days later, the same note buys 38 Pfennig. 97% of its value gone in 1 week, while it sits in your wallet. An egg costs 700 million dinars. A loaf of bread, 4 billion. A newspaper, 15 billion. Cash registers cannot display the numbers. Shopkeepers use chalkboards, updated twice a day. Bus workers strike. Their 2-week salary is worth 4 Deutsch marks. The buses stop. Branko walks 45 minutes to the factory in December, in the dark, through neighborhoods where the street lights are off on rotation. On New Year's Eve 1993, the official exchange rate is 1 Deutsch mark to 1 quadrillion, 775 trillion, 98 billion. 646,615,000 dinars. Full year 1993. Prices rose 116.5 trillion%. January 199 for another redenomination. 1 billion old dinars equals 1 new January dinar. 9 zeros removed. The shortest-lived currency in Yugoslav history. It lasts 24 days. Branko collects his pension. By now the factory has stopped running and he is classified as technically inactive. 4.8 million new dinars. It cannot buy a single Deutsch mark. A kilogram of beef costs 70 million. The exchange rate changes 3 times before lunch. On January 6th, the government declares the Deutsch mark legal tender. Effective immediately, accepted for all transactions, including taxes. For Branko and Milena, this changes nothing. They have been living on Deutsch marks for 2 years. January 24, 1990. For a 75-year-old man with a cloth bag and a bus pass walks into the National Bank. His name is Dragoslav Avramovic. He has a doctorate in economics. He spent 24 years at the World Bank. Serbs call him Deda Avra, grandfather Avra. He takes the bus to work instead of the official car. He carries his documents in a cloth bag. He introduces a new currency. The Novi Dinar, pegged 1-to-1 with the Deutsch mark, issued only in amounts backed by hard currency reserves. His line, the one printed in newspapers and repeated in queues across the country, is this: Nekudampam novac. I will not print money. Within days, the monthly inflation rate falls below 1%. Shops fill up. Prices hold. The chalkboards stop changing between morning and afternoon. The sprint from the payment window to the market before the money lost value stops. Milena buys bread at a price that is the same on Thursday as it was on Monday. She stands in the kitchen and looks at the loaf for a moment before she cuts it. What survived and what did first? The Deutsch marks behind the bookshelf. This is what saved them. Not cleverness, not timing. Institutional memory from a woman who lost savings in the 1950s and taught her daughter to keep hard currency in the house, not in the bank. 15,000 Deutsch marks held in physical cash, outside every institution that could claim it. Freeze it, or inflate it away. A break of cheese cost 1 Deutsch mark in October 1993. It cost 1 Deutsch mark in January 1994. The dinar moved from 700,000 to the mark to 14 million. To the mark in those same months. The Deutsch mark held. It held because no one could print Deutsch marks except the Bundesbank in Frankfurt. Second, physical goods treated as hard currency: cooking oil, cigarettes, petrol, plastic water bottles. A factory worker named Buchan Ivanovic drove across the border each evening after his shift, bought fuel, came back, sold it on the street at 3 to 5 Deutsch marks per liter, and went back to work the next morning. He called it the only enterprise that worked. Cigarettes purchased from a state kiosk at controlled dinar prices and resold at market Deutsch mark rates, funded dozens of small family economies through the worst months. Third, productive land and rural connections. Families with relatives in the countryside. 8. Farmers refused to accept dinars. They bartered or demanded Deutsch marks, but they also fed family. Brankos and outside Kruševac sent potatoes, preserves, and dried beans in autumn. Those jars were a savings account denominated in calories. When Belgrade markets had candy canes and nothing else, the crate from Kruševac was the difference. Fourth, dinar debt held until it evaporated. Several of Branko's colleagues had taken dinar loans in the early 1990s to buy appliances or small cars. By late 1993, those loans were worth nothing in real terms. A colleague repaid a 3-year washing machine loan with the change from a single black market currency trade. The bank accepted it. It was technically the right number of dinars. Debtors won. Creditors and savers lost. This is the mathematics of hyperinflation, and it is not an accident. Fifth, the gray market and practical work. Juliana, a factory worker whose plant closed when sanctions cut off imported components, began queuing overnight outside Western embassies. She sold her place in line to visa applicants for up to 50 Deutsch marks per spot. She also crossed into Bulgaria for fuel. Despite her official wage falling to 1 Deutsch mark per month, she said, whoever knew how to work, managed. She did not mean legal work. She meant the work that the official economy was no longer capable of providing. What did not save them? 11,000 Deutsch marks in BOBANK. The money Branko and Milena deposited over 12 years. The account with a state guarantee, with an official interest rate, with a passbook that updated correctly every quarter. That money was frozen in the autumn of 1990 when the federal government discovered the Serbian parliament had secretly raided the National Bank. It was frozen in 1992 when hyperinflation began. It was frozen in 1993 when prices rose 116 trillion%. It was frozen when Avramovic introduced the Novi Dinar. It was frozen when sanctions were lifted. It became the subject of a European Court of Human Rights ruling issued in 2014. 24 years after it disappeared. Some depositors received partial payments beginning in 2015. Many received nothing at all. The lesson is not that they chose the wrong currency. They chose the right currency, Deutsch marks. They put it in the hands of the institution that had the legal obligation and the explicit state guarantee to protect it. The institution took the money, spent it, and froze the accounts when it ran out. The only Deutsch marks that survived were the ones that never touched an institution. The envelope behind the bookshelf. Not a sophisticated financial instrument, a lesson from a woman who had been through this before. Avramovic's end lasted 2 years. On May 15, 1996, Milosevic had him removed. The official reason: overstepping his authority in IMF negotiations. The real reason: reported by every Serbian journalist who covered it, he refused to resume printing money without hard currency backing. His line, "I will not print money," had become a problem. After his removal, the printing resumed. The Novi dinar weakened to 3.45 to the mark within weeks. By 1998, 6 to the mark. By 1999, on the black market, 30 to the mark. Dragoslav Avramovic died in Rockville, Maryland in 2001. He had stopped the worst hyperinflation on record with a cloth bag and a credible commitment. The credible commitment lasted exactly as long as he did. What keeps me up at night? Milena's daughter Ivana is now in her late 40s. She tells her own children, "Keep something in the house, not in the bank." In the house, her children think this is an old person's anxiety. Yugoslavia was a long time ago. That cannot happen here. In Beirut right now, $82 billion in dollar-denominated deposits is frozen across 1.26 million accounts. Lebanese citizens deposited US dollars in banks. The banks deposited them with the central bank. The central bank used the money for government spending. When capital flows stopped, the deposits froze. Some depositors have been walking into banks with rifles, demanding their own money back. The newspapers describe them as folk heroes. None have been prosecuted. In Caracas, the minimum wage is 40 cents per month. Workers hold 3 jobs. Inflation runs at 682% per year. The US dollar does what the Deutsch mark did in Belgrade. Everyone knows the rate. It changes several times a day. Those with dollars survive. Those without do not. In Ankara, 84 million people hold an estimated 3,100 tons of physical gold outside the banking system. $387 billion in gold kept in homes, not institutions. These are not survivalists. These are ordinary Turks who lived through the lira losing 81% of its value in 5 years and reached the same conclusion Milena's mother reached decades before them. The conclusion is not complicated. When the institution that holds your savings decides its survival is more important than its obligations, the guarantee is worth the dinar it's written on. The only assets that survived Belgrade were the ones that needed no institution to remain valuable. Physical currency, physical goods, physical land, relationships that produce food. Milena still keeps something behind the bookshelf. Her children don't know what it is. They haven't asked. If they ever need to know, they will understand the lesson without her explaining it.